Kris here, Green Sabre, Doom Telly time, episode 45, and it's another competition that I found online. There's been loads of late, and again, they've all been ones that I really fancied doing, and this is another case in point that, yeah, just a decent set of questions, but I will go into that shortly. Firstly, of course, like always, Green Sabre update. So, nothing huge to, well, nothing quite yet huge to report, but yeah, basically plugging away nicely. Recorded in January, as I've mentioned a million times before, so we're kind of demoing at the moment. We've had a couple of weeks off through illness, through either one or another of us, so we're hoping to get back at it. Concerted effort towards the back end of this month as such, like. So yeah, I've been doing another little band side project thing in the background, but all will become apparent soon. I'm not saying anything yet, you'll just have to wait, sit on it, but it's not a Doom project straight off the bat. So yeah, but that is all I'll say on it. Apart from it, it's not a Doom project. It's sounding amazing so far, and it's a lot faster tempo, a bit more death metal, should we say, than yeah. So anyway, watch this space. I'm sure you're all very excited by that. As for Green Sabre though, yeah, plugging away, getting the demo in all sort of set up and good to go. So we should be cooking with gas by the time we're in the studio in January. In other news, gigs. We have 3 more gigs coming this year. They're all in November. They're all on consecutive weekends. It's going to be insane, is my November, because I'm at Damnation Festival, which I'll go into a greater detail later on in this competition. I'm at Damnation Festival the weekend of Saturday the 4th. Then, Saturday the 11th, we're playing Vortex in Wakefield with Iron Void, Sabbath Wolf, and Master Charger. Nearly forgot the other band that's on. Yeah, Vortex in Wakefield, Saturday the 11th of November. That's for Iron Void's 25th anniversary. It's going to be fucking mint. Really looking forward to that. It's going to be a cracking gig. So, yeah, that's Saturday the 11th of November. The following weekend, Saturday the 18th of November, we're at the Blind Pig in Sabre Bridge. We were going to be supporting Gods of Hellfire. Note are on, and oh, shit. What's the other band called? Is it Loner or something? Anyway, I've forgotten. I really need to check that. I should have checked that before I got on here. Anyway, there's 4 bands on, but Gods of Hellfire can't play, sadly, anymore, because Rich guitarist has been having injury issues, so he's not back at it yet, so they've decided to pull from the gig, which I'm gutted, because they're a great bunch of lads, and we haven't gigged with them in ages, just the once. But fret not. Our good friends Oaken Throne are stepping in and are headlining that gig, so yeah. Can't wait. It's going to be fucking brilliant. That's Saturday the 18th at the Blind Pig in Sabre Bridge. And following that, I can only tell you the date and that we have a gig Saturday the 25th of November. And this is going to be a ripper. But we've still got to dot the I's and cross the T's at the moment. So nothing is announced as yet. But as soon as that gets announced on Facebook on the event, then obviously I'll be talking you to death about it. But yeah, that's going to be an absolute ripper. I can say no more as yet, but yeah, it's going to be a cracker. Saturday 25th of November. That will be, as it stands at the minute, unless something marvellous comes in, that will be our last gig of 2023. So yeah, and by the end of November, I'll be absolutely fucked. 3 gigs back-to-back as such, back-to-back weekends, that is. So yeah, that's the Green Sabre update. So yeah, lots going on. And of course that other little side project as well. So, but I'll keep you posted, don't worry. Right, competition time. So today's video, and it was a video competition from Stormwind 79 on YouTube. Shout out Stormwind 79. I'll be putting a link to his original video down below, so check that out. Yeah, he's surpassed 400 subscribers, so absolutely hats off. He's a great bloke, and it's a great channel, and his videos are always really interesting, good stuff. So yeah, as soon as I saw this competition, I thought, I'm having some of that. So I'm having a go. So yeah, to celebrate his 400 plus subs, I mean, he's nearly at 435. Anyway, he's yeah, he's long surpassed 400 now. But yeah, to celebrate that, he's done a little competition giveaway. And the competition is based on 11 questions. So I will list all the questions down below, and like I said, there's going to be a link to his original video, so do check that out, and check out any other sort of subsequent videos that are having a go at this. I'm sure there's going to be quite a few out there as it goes on. But yeah, so let's crack on. And now, should I read you out the questions first? But yeah, no, they're all listed below, so I can't be asked. We might as well just crack on. So yeah, without further ado, let's do it. Like I say, all good questions. So as soon as I saw them, I thought, yeah, I'm having some of that. Question 1. A band everybody likes, but I cannot get into. Now, I could say lots of very obvious things on this one, and there's been a couple of videos previous where I've gone into detail on this. I mean, straight off the bat, I can think it's not a massive, but Kiss. I have never understood the appeal of Kiss. I don't get it at all. Makes no sense to me. Who else have I listed? Wasp. Never got that. When I was growing up, my mates loved them. Like the Animal single, which was probably the best of a bad bun. Wild Child's not bad and stuff like that. But yeah, my mates loved what cheesy as hell for me. I could not get into it, and never have been able to. So yeah, Wasp are another band that totally over my head. I didn't understand what the appeal was about that nonsense. Machine Head. That debut, Burn My Eyes, is a cracker. Has it aged brilliantly? What has any new metal aged brilliantly? I'd argue that. And the stuff that has aged best, I wouldn't strictly call new metal. And I probably wouldn't call Burn My Eyes, the debut, new metal either, to address that. But, no, everything else is garbage, personally. And I know you shouldn't let your feelings on someone affect your opinion. I mean, Christ, I listen to a lot of stuff where band members are either fucking horrible people or have horrible political leanings and stuff like that, but I still listen to it. I can bypass that. I really find it struggle to bypass Rob Flynn. I don't know. Something about him grates on me. And I find the music very forced angry. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of hand gestures and sort of. I've mentioned on a previous video that I think fucking Biohazard started all this fucking macho posturing nonsense, and they all kind of went with it when Biohazard got massive. Good band, I have to say. Anyway, so yeah, Machine Head, I can't want to. Trivium, Bullet for My Valentine, Avenged Sevenfold, all that. I mean, what is it called? Is it metalcore? Is it whatever that fucking nonsense is? No, none of it. But none of those bands are who I'm here to talk to. The band everyone around me loved and still loves, and I cannot understand the love of, they've just never impacted on me at all, is shock horror, Overkill. I've mentioned this on a previous video, but no, they do absolutely not for me. Not at all. So I have tried. Like I say, my mates, all like they had the Fuck You EP and blah, blah, and all that kind of thing. There were one album that I made a note of, Years of Decay. Some of the riffage on that I really, really liked. It felt like their most mature record, certainly at the time. Was it like 1989? Something like that. So about the time that all my mates and all that were listening to them and getting into them, I feel like it was that album or the one before it, the one from 1988, that's name I forget now. But yeah, it was around that time as such. Like, there's some good riffs on Years of Decay, and there's some half decent songs. I find it's all a bit thrash by numbers for me. It's all a little cheesy riff wise, a bit too overly. This is another controversy, but when DRI went thrash, DRI did a couple of good albums, and there was a key component of it that I'm going to go into that I preferred of DRI than, and stuff like Gangrene that was out at the time and all that. Overkill sort of slipped into that thing for me. His voice, I could not and cannot still now stand his voice. I just don't like it at all. It's just an awful noise. On that Years of Decay, I'm assuming it's on that album. Is it Elimination, the song? That Elimination, it just sounds like a fucking squeaking door into the court. No, anyway, I've spoke enough about them. I have tried. It's not like a band that I've just outright dismissed. I've tried because almost everybody I know says they're great. I need to give them a go, and I have tried multiple occasions. I cannot get past it. So yeah, a band that everyone else loves around me, and I've never really got into. Overkill, shock horror. Okay, question 2. A band I discovered by accident. This was quite a hard question to answer, really, because the more I thought about it, I thought, have I discovered any bands strictly by accident? I thought at first of bands like Big Business, Russian Circles, who else? Kvelertak, and stuff like that. That were bands that I knew nothing about and discovered when I went to a gig. I saw them like a support act for bands. Generally Mastodon. Mastodon always bring great support acts in some way, shape or form. Again, I've discovered a lot through them, but was that by accident? It wasn't. I bought a ticket, I went to the show. Anyway, I thought about it too much, quite honestly. Too long, too hard. So I thought, right, straight off the bat, a band I discovered by accident. Although this could have been my answer for a band that I was late to the game to later on, but we'll go into that in greater detail. But I decided on the band I discovered by accident that I love, the Melvins. Or Melvins, is it? But yeah, anyway, the Melvins. That I discovered... It wasn't through going and seeing him or anything like that. I think it was an interview, a years-old interview with Mike Patton in something, either Kerrang or fucking Metal Forces or whatever it was. And he'd mentioned this band that he thought, well, like one of the greatest bands around at the time or something. And he'd said, the Melvins, never heard of them. And that it was around that time that, it wasn't when Houdini come out, it was quite a ways after that. Was it like 98, 99? It was around the time that Faith No More folded. So yeah, will it be like 98, around that neck of the woods? That he mentioned him in a band there. And then he did the Phantomas side project thing around like 99, 2000, 2001. And Buzz Osborne of the Melvins, he's on that record. So it was like, oh, Melvins, yeah. Checks him out, loved it. So yeah. I dug that out, I forgot to show it. Yeah, I mean, I've got quite a few Melvins back there, but the one that everyone will probably know and stuff like. But yeah, I discovered it quite a while afterwards by accident, thanks to a Mike Patton interview in a fucking magazine somewhere. So yeah, band I love that I discovered by accident, the Melvins. Okay, question 3, a band / album that I didn't like at first, but now love. Again, quite hard. The first thought that came into my head was Merciful Fate. That I couldn't... I've mentioned this before as well, and I was discussing with a mate about it, how the era of metal that I grew up in, like the late 80s, the early 90s, the music press conditioned us to think that singing was cheesy and was old school and was for old blokes and was shit and it wasn't the future. We were conditioned into believing that. A lot of like the older bands and the more traditional bands that were doing that kind of reach for the sky vocal, if you will, like, you know, were kind of shunned and dismissed for being cheesy. And I wholly bought into that, really. It was difficult for me to get my head around stuff. And certainly with Merciful Fate and like King Diamond, his vocals are a very hard sell. I think you either like them or you hate them. And I hated them at first. I was like, what is this fucking nonsense? I didn't like it at all. But as I've grown older and the subtleties of various genres and stuff like that, and you go back to the greats, I've realised the true majesty of Merciful Fate. I can't show you anything because I've got no physical media, but I've got the classics downloaded as such, like. But yeah, probably something that I need in the collection, but the originals go for some coin. So yeah, Merciful Fate was my first choice off the bat. But then I remembered, I thought, actually no, there's a band that I genuinely love that I did not like at first. And in particular, this record, Mr. Bungle. I couldn't get my head around this at first when it first come out. And it wasn't this album, it wasn't me realising that I was wrong and going back and listening to that made me think, yeah, okay, I was wrong. It was actually one of their later albums that I realised, oh, actually, I really like this. And then ploughed back and thought, yeah. It was one of the more newer, more subtler ones. I think it was Disco Volante, the second one. But California's an absolute ripper as well. And so is this, to be fair, that I've since learned to love. But at first I just thought it was contrived. it's about as subtle as a fucking lump hammer is this record, really. And it was still different. I thought it smacked of trying too hard and trying to be deliberately wacky and zany and stuff like that. And there are lots of friends, I imagine, and people watching this will still feel that about Mr. Bungle, that it's over the top, wacky and zany stuff. But I love it. But yeah, at first I couldn't get... There were friends and people that hung around with like, you got to listen to this. I'm like, shite, don't be fucking stupid. That's trying way too hard. But yeah, it was where it was. It was Disco Volante, the second album. When that come out and I heard it, and there's some just more subtler. They're not subtle at all, like I say. But there was something about that second album that I grasped, that it made sense to me finally. And yeah, so I went back and love it. And I love them. I've got all 3 on vinyl now. So, sorry, all 4, although the weakest one's the latest thrash tribute act that they're currently peddling. But the original 3, class. Right, so yeah. Number 4, a band I didn't check out for ages and now love. Again, I could have answered the Melvins for this, but I thought, right, well, I'll go with someone else. And then it occurred to me, like, oh, there is one. Black Sabbath. Now, yeah, as I've explained on previous videos, I got into metal 1988. That's when I started listening to heavy metal, proper light metal and stuff like that. Iron Maiden, and then Metallica followed shortly afterwards, and Slayer and so on and so forth. And because of that arc of how I got into stuff, I entirely missed this band. The stuff they were doing at the time was like the Headless Cross era Black Sabbath, which, as I've explained about the whole Merciful Fate thing, and as the child me back then, who'd moved into thrash and then death metal with Death Leprosy and, and stuff like that, Morbid Angel, I entirely bypassed that. So when I did listen to bits of it, like I go to my uncle's and it's like, here's the Pioneers, listen to this, and it felt limp compared to what I've been listening to. So that's why I just kind of dismissed Black Sabbath for ages, as if, that old school stuff, no, I'm into the new gear. And it wasn't until getting into doom metal, it was the doom metal, but getting into Cathedral and stuff like that, that they talked about these people like gods. And I thought, right, well, I better check this out. And I think it was me getting into doom metal which finally made Black Sabbath make sense to me. And of course, I've never looked back, and they are gods and icons. And I don't know if they've ever really done any bad albums, apart from that one in the 90s that's got iced tea on it. But anyway, what's it called? Anyway, whichever one it is. Yeah, that's fairly bad. But the rest of it, I can think of qualities in all eras of Black Sabbath, quite honestly. So, but yeah, it took me an age, because I bypassed them by getting into metal when I did, when Sabbath were sort of arguably on the wane, late 80s, early 90s. They came back with a fucking bang in 92 with Dehumanizer, but that's another story. Used to have that on vinyl as well. Don't have it anymore. Lots of money. But I digress. And yeah, so at that period, they were not on my radar. So I missed them, and it was doom metal that got me back into it. Yeah, so anyway. Yeah, a band I didn't check out for ages, but now love. Question 5, a band that changed their sound for the better. Sound/style for the better. I've mentioned this on a previous video, and I've done a ranking of this band. I just randomly pulled out one of their more later albums. It is, of course, Mastodon. Once More Around the Sun. I champion this record. It's a belter. And anyone that thinks otherwise is wrong. But I love that change. Again, I've got friends that aren't keen on that change to a slightly more proggy approach to what they do. But I love it, and I think they have changed for a bit. Don't get me wrong, Remission, Leviathan, and bits of Blood Mountain, where they've still got a bit of that old school feel in it, are ace. There's no denying that. They're a band that haven't done a bad record. Just ones that are weaker than others. But I love their more modern approach to it, because they're all so talented, song-wise, musician-wise, and stuff like that. So why not show it off? And yeah, I just think they've come into their own and sort of created a really niche little sound that there aren't many other bands that sound like them, really. And yeah, as they've gone on, Crack the Sky is still my favourite, but I love what they've turned into. And I personally do think it's for the better. So Mastodon, easy way to answer question 5. Question 6. a style of music or a band that I love that might surprise you people out there. Again, I've covered this on a previous video, but I'm going to talk about this band. Tears for Fears, Songs from the Big Chair, The Hurting. The two best ones comfortably for me. Seeds of Love is alright. Half of it's good, half of it's a bit nah. The latest one that they've released ain't bad. Half of it's alright, half of it's nah. But these two are classics. Straight up, start to finish. Belters, rippers, love them. I just love the melody and stuff like that. There was something that, obviously, it's a heart back to the sort of nostalgia of the 80s when I was a kid growing up listening to this sort of stuff. And we do intend in Green Sabre to cover a Tears for Fears track at some point. We've been working on a couple of them and they're sounding really, really good, to be fair. But we've been that busy with gigs and then getting ready for recording and stuff that every time we think, let's rehearse them covers so we can whack them in a live set if we need anything, we never get around to it. So whether we ever fucking will or not, we might have to do like a Garage Days album later in our careers and whack them on there or something. But yeah, Tears for Fears, absolutely adore them. I do have a bit of a soft spot for a lot of that 80s synthy pop type stuff. Not the overtly cheesy fucking nonsense like Rick Astley and anything that Stock Aitken Waterman put the name to and all that kind of stuff. No, the more subtle, nuanced, proper 80s pop, like Tears for Fears, like when Toto were doing their sort of stuff, and all that, slightly more Depeche Mode, and anyway, Depeche Mode, great band. But yeah. So, Tears for Fears, I thought, a band that you might think, ooh, that surprises me. Don't be surprised. Don't be frightened. Don't be alarmed. I love them. So, yeah. Okay, question 7. I might have mentioned earlier, actually. I can't remember, because my videos are very much like a brain fart, where I just wham. There's a few notes, don't get me wrong. It's not all ad-lib, but most of it's just, okay, go with it. So I forget what I've said a lot of the time. So do forgive me if I'm repeating myself. But with most of these questions, I feel like I've answered them on previous videos and stuff like that. But I thought, has anything changed? Anyway, so I've mentioned this before as well. But yeah, question 7, an album that lets down a band's discography. Now, I can think of loads of bands with several albums that let down a band's discography. Paradise Lost is the first one that come to mind with that kind of the era that I just don't bother with after Draconian Times through Faith Divides Us. That whole lump there does very, very little for me. So, but that's more than one album, of course. Metallica, they've done more than one terrible album. And a too obvious choice, that was the caveat to this question. No Turbo, Judas Priest, and no St. Anger, Metallica. So I avoided that, but I could have put Load and Reload and the new one and the one before the new. I can think of lots of Metallica albums that let down. Everything after Black Album, quite honestly, you could argue, lets down Metallica's discography. But anyway, I avoided them. I avoided Judas Priest for the obvious one. I avoided the obvious Slayer choice. Diabolus, which just felt like an obvious choice for me. And again, you could say that a lot of Slayer albums around that came after Diabolus and so on were a bit patchy. So maybe it was multiple albums. Megadeth, everything after Rust in Peace. So yeah, I can think of loads of bands that have had multiple offences with albums. A band where one album spoils the discography, though, is slightly different. And I had to go back to one that I've mentioned before. And I don't have it because, like I say, minimal space for stuff. So if it's crap, it's either been sold on or I've never bought it in the first place. So, insert image. My Dying Bride's 34.788% complete. Which isn't a dreadful album, I have to say, because there's a couple of crackers on it. It's just not of the standard of everything else in their back catalogue is. It's just not remotely up to the level that they've set with A, they're absolutely thunderous classics, and B, pretty much everything else, which is just My Dying Bride doing what they do best. This felt like an experiment that didn't need making. If you've read the Hammy book, A Peaceful Life, it's a good little read. He goes into a bit of detail about My Dying Bride at this point as well, and it feels like there was not anything fractured in there and stuff, but it sounds like it was difficult at that time, and that album came out of a difficult era for the band. And I don't know, I think you can often hear stuff like that. It just, yeah, it didn't really work for me at all. And it is one that, if I find it on CD for like £1 or something, then it'll probably make its way into the collection. But until that point, I'm not going to go out of my way to fucking buy it. But yeah, it's the one black mark on a otherwise exemplary fucking discography, quite honestly. So yeah, that was question 7, an album that lets down a band's discography. One album. Number 8. Okay, we're into the festival part of the questions now. A festival I haven't been to but want to go to. Relatively new this as well, and I think they're both connected to Reaper. Is it the Reaper agency? They'll do a lot of black metal stuff. They do like a all-day thing at this place in Germany. Is it Bolver Cave? That looks like the greatest venue in the world. I think Winter Filleth and Arth played there last year. Did My Dying Bride play there this year? That looks ace. That I'd like to go and see, just sort of see the cave and see what it's like in there, or watch bands. It looks brilliant. So yeah, that's on my radar. But another one that the Reaper Agency do, Fortress Festival. This year's just gone over in Scarborough, was an absolutely sensational lineup. We had a Green Sabre gig on that same Saturday that was the best day of the lineup, so I couldn't get over there, but dearly wanted to. I think Arth and Winter Filleth played on that same day. That looks sensational. Next year is shaping up. It's over in Scarborough. I forget where they used to do it. I think they used to do it in a fucking field in North Yorkshire somewhere, but it's moved to Scarborough now, on the front there. Like the Pavilion, is it, or whatever it's called. Nice building, great spot. Yeah, it looks ace. I think Black Braid have already been announced for next year. So yeah, that looks great. So that is a festival I want to check out at some point. So yeah. Yeah, Fortress and pretty much anything that Reaper do, quite honestly, was my answer to that question. Question 9, a festival that doesn't appeal to me. Right, well, straight off the bat, I can think of non-metal ones like Glastonbury. I've got friends that aren't metalers that go to Glastonbury and used to go like every year. And I was always told, no, you need to go just for the experience, just to sort of see that you need to and immerse it all in. And it never made any sense to me. Like, why would I spend like £400 on a weekend for like maybe one band that I want to see and be surrounded by a load of flaky fucking hipsters? So yeah, that's never appealed to me. But I felt like Glastonbury was a bit of an obvious answer to that one. So my answer to it is all festivals that are gigantic. And I'm counting Hellfest in on this. Download. I haven't been to Bloodstock yet, and I would like to at some point, because that's usually not a bad lineup. But all festivals that go on for like what feels like fucking 6 weeks. You know, you get there for camping on the Tuesday, and then you're leaving near enough the week after. So the Thursday night they've got stuff going on all day Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and it's Jesus Christ, fucking leave it. It fills me with dread having to be stuck surrounded by that many people. Listen, with all them fucking clashes that I wanted to see both. I remember got a Download when Faith No More reformed in 2009. They were fucking sensational that year, I have to say. We only went for the one day, it was a Sunday. And there were only like one other band that I really, really wanted to see, and that was Meshuggah. And they were playing at the same fucking time as Faith No More. So, too many bands. Your festival does not need to go on for 4 days. Rein it in for the sake of Christ. One day. And that goes back to any festival that's, I mean, Hellfest, you look at the lineup, it's just mouth-watering. But you think there's going to be tons of clashes. I'm just going to be fatigued after about 6 hours. I'll probably get too drunk on the first day and then be recovering for the rest of it. And yeah, I just, no, it's too much. It's too, with stuff like that, I need to get away from it after a while. I can't just do 4 days of just relentless slog like that as such. Like, I need to be able to get away from it, and there is no escape at a festival. They're like, yeah, go back to your tent, which is, I remember once going to, I think it was one of the V festivals. Anyway, long story, but we turned up a bit late, brought our tents. It was dark at that time. It was like trying to pitch a tent on a fucking postage stamp in the dark. It was like some kind of like refugee village. When we woke up in the morning, just seas of tents, and not that you slept much because everyone's like fucking being arseholes overnight and stuff like that. And yeah, I sound like a miserable old bastard, and I probably am, but no, any of these massive festivals that go on forever do not float my boat at all. They're just, no, give me a one day. So, which goes into question 10, a festival I could attend every year. Damnation, and I'm going again this year. Damnation's great. It's always a great lineup, and it was one day great lineup with minimal clashes. They've now stretched it into this Night of Salvation on a Friday, and it just, is this the tipping point? I'm just a little concerned, like, where's this going from here? Are they going to start adding a Sunday as well? And it all just starts diluting it. The beauty of Damnation is that on that Saturday, last year, for a case in point, I don't think I stopped. I had a band that I wanted to watch at 12, then the one at 1, then 2, then 3. I was just pinging room to room. I never stopped. Band. You start going over 2 or 3 days, there's like 2 bands that I'm interested in on Friday. Then there might be 3 that I'm interested in on Saturday. Then there might be 1 or 2 that I'm interested in on Sunday. And you start diluting it. And then I've got hours during the day that I've just got to kind of fucking mill around and be bored and drink to relieve the boredom and keep it on one day. That's what my other answer to that question. A festival I could go to every year, the Monsters of Rock. Do you know why? Because it were like 8 bands, 1 stage, 1 day. That is all you need for a festival. Stop trying to rake it in. I know these things are expensive and you need to make back your overheads and stuff like that, but surely it doesn't help by putting 8,000 bands on instead of 8. I know it's when you've got things like Hellfest that just keep putting out the greatest lineup in the history of metal every fucking year without fail. Surely that's not sustainable. But anyway, that's another thing. But yeah, I don't understand it at all. Please, can we get back to 1 day festivals? 1 day is with minimal bands. I don't want 4-day events with, like I say, several million fucking bands on. It's too much. And it's extortionate. But so, yeah. Okay. The final question 11. My favourite alcoholic drink. I had to think about this because I really don't drink anymore. It's very, very rare that I drink. I don't drink when I go out these days because it's so expensive. I'm driving. So I've just got in the habit of not really drinking now when I go to gigs and stuff like that. And I don't miss it. But I am partial to a few alcoholic drinks. But obviously, because I don't drink that much, I've got nothing in it. I literally know there might be a can of Camden Hells in the fridge. 1 can. But other than that, I've got no wine in at the minute and I've got no whiskey. But I was going to say that I'm quite partial to... I'm not going to say IPAs because I'll sound like a hipster and stuff like that. But some of these modern, they're quite nice. They're a bit easier going. They're not quite as heavy fucking duty as a lot of the beers. So I quite like some of Camden Hells. I'm a bit of a fan of. At Desert Fest as well, I had something that was so easy to drink. They're called like Shipyard or something. Anyway, that was really nice. Yeah, so stuff like that. I'm also a fan of Dos Equis, a Mexican beer. Fantastic. Really, really nice. There's a Mexican restaurant near me in Leeds that sells it. So yeah, whenever we go there, I'll have some of that. Fantastic. You can keep your fucking Corona and your whatever the other Mexican one is. Dos Equis. It's like 2 X's on the logo. Fantastic. Okay, what else? I am a fan of a Malbec. Red wine. Yeah, I'll have that every now and then. I used to like Merlot, but it's a bit heavy duty for me now. I think I've moved to Malbec and a Shiraz or a Syrah for our US friends. Single malt whiskey. I love a single malt. So depending on one, I'm a fan of Talisker. I really like Talisker. The 10-year one will do for me. I'm going up there soon, so I'm going to do a distillery tour and I might treat myself to like an 18-year or something like that. But anyway, I love Talisker. I love Jura. There's a few different varieties of Jura that I like as well, but yeah, I'm a big fan of that. It's a little smoother than Talisker. Sensational. Got that sort of peaty Highland Scottish taste. And I like Speyside as well, but yeah, any of them kind of like Highland Scottish single malts, yes, they'll do for me. Right, 35 minutes, sorry guys, I can't do anything fucking quickly. So that's it. I really enjoyed answering these questions for this competition. So, congratulations, Stormwind79, on your 400 plus subscribers. I can only dream of those numbers, but we'll get there. Like I say, link down below to his original one. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I feel like my next video is going to be another competition. Altars of Madness is doing like a Halloween comp, but I might save that to nearer Halloween. I'll see you anyway. But yeah, if not, that might be next. But yeah, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, as always. Need to get them followers up. I've had a few extra subscribers, so thank you. After I did the live stream Motorhead ranking, that was really enjoyable. I love that, with Cavernous Carnage and Johnny Mack at Rock and Metal Plus. Shout out you two. I might put a link to that down below as well. Yeah, really like that. So I'm looking forward to doing some more rankings and countdowns and that kind of stuff. Yeah. But until the next time, thank you for watching. I will see you guys later. Take care.